I think we are back.
We are back,
on.
yeah. Prof,
Yes.
Prof will join, please. Let me admit.
In fact,
no, wait a minute. Let Prof come. Let me admit
okay.
let me admit colleagues, please. Please use the same link, the new one I sent. Anyway, we are back. All right, thank you, Prof. All right, Prof, you're welcome back. Prof, if you can hear me, welcome back. All right.
Okay.
All right, so please. Nicholas.
Okay.
Yes, Prof.
Yes, I think we
Yes.
Hello, sir.
I was on the floor, and my point was that when you take an institution like the NDPC, National Development Planning Commission, a very fantastic body, which has come out with a lot of policies and developmental programs and agenda for the short term, mid-term, and then the long run for this particular country, that's Ghana. And Prof mentioned that we have fantastic policies, but unfortunately, all these fantastic policies are so disjointed. They are not coordinated towards the end that we all desire. Why am I saying so? Our constitution, that is the Constitution of Ghana, the 1992 Constitution, has a major gap, which has, in my view, contributed to we not realizing what we always
your link is not
in terms of development. This I say because the Constitution does not enforce the continuation of programs and policies, but rather relies on individual party manifestos and the Constitution is not. The Constitution is not binding, actually, on the political parties to really implement the policies, directions, or the policies and programs that the NDPC has for the nation as a whole. So each political party comes with good programs, problems that we have, which is making us know to see the development that we need.
Okay. Are we getting
Prof,
to
I
the
end my
point?
submission.
Okay, thank you.
Prof, Prof,
yes.
before you
Hello,
come.
Prof.
Okay.
Yeah, Prof. Humbly, before you come, you see, yeah, Honorable Nicholas, I think you made a fantastic submission. The issue I have with your submission is picking on the Constitution for lack of policy continuity. And let me liken it to a principle in corporate governance known as the business decision rule. What it is this, that the courts, so put the courts in the situation of the Constitution. They don't want to tie up the hands of board of directors. So the business decision rule simply implies that they want to give that benefit of doubt to board of directors to behave in utmost good faith in taking the decisions in the boardroom, so that they will not second, guess the decisions of members in the boardroom. That's what the business decision is. So liken it to chapter 6 of the Constitution, which talks of directive principle of state policy. The Constitution has provided this. And that is why you have government, you have leadership. So the Constitution would want to give the benefit of doubt to elected political officers led by the president, to give meaning by enforcing the directive principle of state policy. So we cannot hold the Constitution responsible wholesalely for lack of policy continuity. That is implied, and it expressly provides for it in chapter 6. So let's take note of that before Prof comes in, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Comes in, Prof.
Do I have the floor now?
Really what created, this is what is creating. Okay.
No, let Prof come first, please. Nicholas, hold on.
Okay. I've been taking notes on aspects of the discussion. I think talking about the Constitution, 1887, there was a young assistant lecturer in the United States, and he published an article that we've used up until today, and we are still using it. And he said it was getting difficult to implement the Constitution than to frame one. They've put the Constitution in place. And the implementation of that Constitution, he noted at that time, was getting more difficult every day because it's not easy. So just hearing the discussions on the Constitution just reminds me of that, because I've heard at least two people talk about, we have a good Constitution, no doubt about that. We put our minds together and we developed a Constitution. But who said it was going to be easy to implement the Constitution? So the lawyers and constitutional lawyers and the others, they don't talk a whole lot about that, but they talked about how we can implement the Constitution to get to where we want to go. And that is the main problem that we're dealing with, the challenge that we're dealing with. Another issue that I made note of, and that also is subject of discussion. Somebody talked about, what happened after the elections. There's one of the books that we use. It says, after the cheering stops, after the cheering, when we win the elections and we do all the celebrations, and then they say, okay, when the president and the leaders, you get to your office the next day, and then you ask yourself, what have I got myself into? Because you said you would do, only 200 things, and you don't have resources to do even 10 of them. That's why you know you have what? You have a decision, or you have decisions to make. Now, building on, years ago, the World Bank got us involved in developing what they call contextualization of the good governance principles. Say each country need to look at their own principles. What will work for that particular country? And I think it's one of the things that we need to look at in Ghana, because we've had so many things, transparency, fairness, rule of law, human development, ethical principles, and so forth. So if we were to just, for even the few minutes that we have, let's say, okay, in Ghana, can we agree, those of us here, what aspect of these principles that we can really accept or propound for Ghana and say, we know we need this, we can make it work? Can we have an agreement? Because there are so many of these principles. We want to contextualize these principles for the Ghana environment. We're looking for things that will do what? That will work, because we want our own institutions to work. We want our own principles to work. We want our own values to come into play. So which one of these can we really say will work for us? Let's say let's agree on, let's say the top 5 is too limited, top 10, so that we can get a good list for ourselves. Okay, yes, I see some hands up.
Yes. The principle of democratic accountability.
Let me ask this. Why do you keep bringing in democratic accountability?
Okay, so
No, you know why I'm asking the question that way.
Okay, let me reframe by using accountability. Democratic accountability,
Okay.
because accountability emanates from democracy. However elected, the anticipation is that our leaders will be accountable.
So let's take accountability.
To the people, yes.
To the people.
Yes.
Okay. Second person to add something to it for us.
Yes, honorable members, let's engage.
Rule of law.
Rule of law.
Okay, rule of law. Okay, please go ahead. We have Henry and
Prof. Yes. I hope after listening, you give us the opportunity to subject it to discussion.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, Enoch.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, Henry. Henry.
This is Henry. Yeah, thank you once again, Prof. It's very good discussion. I would say fairness. Fairness should be part of what we should talk about. Yes, sir. Fairness. Hello.
Yes, we have fairness. Next one, you want to add?
So fairness or transparency.
Thank you.
Transparency. Okay. Has Enoch speaking?
No, not yet.
Okay, I see the hand is up.
Enoch Olabode.
Yes. Okay, sorry.
All right, Joel.
Yes, I'll say ethical leadership, please.
Ethical leadership.
Yes, please.
Okay. Ethical leadership. Somebody coming in,
So let's add security.
security.
Which of the security? Is it human security or national security?
National, sir.
Okay. Okay, it says national security. Okay.
Prof, how about effective participation?
Okay, let me put participation for a reason. I'll leave the qualifier out and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Okay, I've listed 7. Okay. Now, okay,
Qualification.
please can you repeat?
Henry.
Yeah, I said qualification.
In terms of what?
Qualification.
In terms of your input, like if you are being a leader, do you qualify to handle whatever you come out to on your position? Yeah. So your qualification, some don't have any idea about whatever they are being put to do, but because of unfairness, they are just put there, and then the leadership suffers. So,
but you voted the person to power. At the time you were voting, you need to know.
Okay, we've listed about 8 of these principles if we're trying to contextualize. And let me pick up a few and then I'll let others come in. The last one, qualification. In the literature, we normally, when we're talking leadership, we talk competence. If you are a leader or a manager, one of the things your followers look for is that you are competent. You know where you want to go, where you want to take them to go, and then accept and follow you. So,
Prof, there's a hand up.
oh, okay. So, Michael.
Hello, Prof.
Yes, sir.
Please, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, I wanted to add integrity.
I didn't get the whole thing.
I said I wanted to add integrity.
Integrity.
Yes,
Sure.
integrity, integrity.
Okay. Now, okay. So for leadership, the last two, if you look at 8 and 9, we have
I'm not sleeping.
qualifications, and I
Sleeping.
qualified it to say
slept.
that competence. And then with
I slept well.
Right under before
Midday. Oh, I was sleeping.
so you close the eye.
Did I close my eye?
Yeah, I
haven't slept. I've
did.
been there. I've been in.
Please,
Oh, so
Prof,
if
please
I do
unmute.
this, doesn't mean I'm sleeping.
You can mute, please.
Prof, unmute. Prof,
The way they're doing
unmute.
the thing is boring.
Okay,
Oh my God.
good. Okay.
Oh.
So we have commenting on the last two. When we talk of leadership, two very important aspects: competence or qualification, and then integrity. It says if you are a leader and you lose your integrity, you almost have nothing, because your followers then lose confidence in you. And here, remember the equation one of the participants gave us. It says leadership, the people, and the situation involved. And what we are saying is that in this equation, if the leader doesn't have competence and integrity, the equation is not going to work. And then participation. I know Alawi keeps talking about democratic participation or democratic involvement, and usually I advise, let's take the democracy out and talk about participation. The principle says, we need to get most people involved. Now, and here the question is, this is some of the bias, those of us, the so-called educated ones. When we hear some of the debate, is that are these people really qualified to fully participate, understand the issues, and make contributions? So that is what one of the issues that we deal with from time to time. What is the quality of the participation of these people? Do they get involved in the agenda setting? That is when we are looking at so many issues and we want to concentrate on the most important ones. For example, we're talking about, Galamsey on the national agenda today. So participation, now we have so many stakeholders and everybody is coming out with all these ideas. How do we sift through and accept which ones that are going to work? Because we can't work with all the ideas that we get. And then security. First, it was national security, protect our borders, protect our sovereignty. But now some are arguing human security is even more important than the national security.
The national security, yeah.
But we want to combine both when we talk of security, because if you have, if human security is not good, if the people don't feel secure, if they don't have jobs, they don't have food to eat, then it's easy for them to join Boko Haram and the other radical groups, no matter how safe your borders are. And then accountability to the people. And here, always keep something in mind. It says accountability to whom and to what. We have within any particular organization, we have lines of accountability. Lower level, we are accountable to our superiors, and they are accountable for our behavior. And so accountability, I think that one is easy, but it has to work and it must be seen to be working. Rule of law. And here things like rule of law and accountability. One of the areas that we don't talk more often about is the impact of what? Of our history, of our culture, of our norms on rule of law, fairness, and accountability. Let me give one example so far away. In the United States, if you are a student, you cause demonstrations, you destroy property, the police come and arrest you, that's the end of it. But in Ghana, what happens? The ministers are there begging, forgive. Politicians are there begging, forgive. And so there's a difference. We tamper rule of law decisions with our culture and our history. And unless you've been in a leadership position, top leadership position in Ghana, you don't get a good sense of what I'm talking about. And that's why we need to do contextualize these things, taking cognizance of our local environment, because the rule of law is there. And so now some are calling for what? Bring the whip into the schools, because if we take away the whip and the kids misbehave and you take a decision, the chief will be the first one to come and beg. So all of these things we cannot ignore in our environment. Oh, transparency. We've made some good progress in that. The Freedom of Information Act, and be transparent in all the decisions that we're supposed to make. And then ethical leadership. It says our leaders must be ethical. They must be guided by moral principles. So some of these things are easy to agree on, but others, trust me, in our environment, because for any society, when we make rules and regulations, we have to look at what? The environment in which we are operating. So leadership, the people, our institutions, and the situation. The situation is the context in which we are operating, and there's a big difference. Some of you have added human rights. Once again, years ago when we started talking about governance, we didn't talk about human rights. It wasn't part of the vocabulary. Now it's in there. Equality is been on the agenda in Ghana for a while, but equality is also something that we have to deal with. As we come down the local level, equality is different. We argue in the classrooms, for example, that in Ghana, we have done well, as a country, beginning with the leadership of Nkrumah and the others. We're able to downplay discrimination based on where you're coming from in Ghana. Other countries are not so well even today, and that's something that we've done well in Ghana. And equality doesn't mean all of us are equal before the law, before the eyes. It's not just in Ghana, but if you have a good lawyer, sometimes you can walk away after committing some heinous crimes. But Having said all of this in terms of the principles, I always conclude that in Ghana, we've done well over the years, and that's aspect of the issue that we're looking at. We just don't end there. We say good governance, good leadership, it leads to national development. But is this sustainable development? Are we able to sustain the development? Because you may be making good progress today, but then when conditions change as a country, as a society, are we able to keep up with the changing circumstances? And I think that's why I think some of our friends talked about what? Effective leadership. If leadership is effective, then it means we must be able to adapt to change. I always say when COVID came in Ghana, we were among the leading countries in the whole world in terms of those who handle the COVID so well. So COVID management, we give ourselves an A. Post-COVID, how much do we give ourselves? Maybe not so well. So sometimes what worked well in one situation may not necessarily work well in other situations. And I think that's why the effective leadership that some of you mentioned come into play. I think somebody talked about institutions. We look at institutional theory. Some will argue that governance is all about our institutions and how the institutions work. So when we are talking of good governance, for example, we say, okay, we want to see how our institutions working. We want to see how Parliament is working. We want to see how the court system, the judiciary is working. We want to see how the media is working. We want to see how decentralization is working. We want to see how chieftaincy and our local institutions are working. All these institutions, how are they working? Because when we're talking of all these institutions, we look at them as a system. A system means if one part is not working, it affects all the others. I think the best example that I can give, if you have a car, everything is working and your tires are flat, the whole system is affecting. So institutions, we have to think of these as institutional theory in terms of the whole system. And that is why it gets so complicated when we are looking at national development in Ghana. We can look at areas where we're doing so well. But then with that, you look at some other areas where we are not performing well. And the argument here this evening is that it's difficult to get everything working, but we want to make sure we accentuate the positive aspects of the system and try to minimize those that are not working. And the same thing, corporate governance with the various organizations in which we are working with, both public and private, because you can have a lot of the systems in place working so well, but you can have a small piece that are not working. I recall years ago, the biggest complaint that our students had at GIMPA was that this GIMPA leadership, you sit in your office and you're moving so fast, you think everything is working so well, you don't calm down to see what is going on down. So when I became rector, my policy was what? Management by groping along, management by walking along. So every morning I would just walk around the campus to see what is going on, just to see that entire system are working, because you sit in the leadership position and you draw all these nice plans. Some are being implemented, but you don't know what things going on in the ground. And from leadership standpoint, there may be a lot of things that you don't see that are not brought to your attention. Okay. I see a comment here, a section on the economic development. Because once again, when we talk of governance, remember we also talk of what? Economic governance, how we are managing the economy. And if you recall, less than 20 years ago, we could say Ghana, we were managing our economies so well because we got away from the old system where we could just print money and we're causing inflation. We got away from that. So economic management, once again, Ghana as a country, we were doing so well. We were managing the economic institutions that we had put in place, Bank of Ghana, the ministries and so forth. We were managing the country so well in terms of economic development. So we said, you know, when Ghana became one of the show me nations, we knew that we were doing well on the economic front. So economic management, we said fine. Political management, we're also doing fine. But that doesn't mean everything is rosy. Okay, Mr. Moderator.
All right, so Prof.
Yes.
I'm sure my colleagues will be the good judges of the invaluable scholarly knowledge you have shared with us. On this note, I want to call on Priscilla Asian, honorable member, to thank Prof for the opportunity to share his knowledge with us. So, Honorable Priscilla, if you can hear me, please.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Good evening once again, Prof.
Good evening.
It's been so good having you this evening. We have enriched our knowledge this evening on governance, leadership, and development. So on behalf of my colleagues, we thank you so very much for being with us this evening, knowing how busy you are. We are so very grateful. And we know that during the launch, we will see you in person. We will be glad to have you on that day. So Prof, thank you so much for being with us this evening. We are grateful. Thank you.
All right, and thank you too. And I promise to be back.
Yeah, sure. You'll be back, Prof.
I promise.
We will fetch you back. All right, so honorable members, thank you so much for attending upon the house. We are grateful to each and every one of you. Next week, we'll have yet another exciting discussion. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you, Prof. Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, pleasure is all mine.